Oh, crap.
Let me see.
Oh, it's the, Hey, that's,
Studios in the late 80s greenlit dark comedies that treated marriage as a blood sport, cannibalism as high art, and childhood terror as pitch-black satire. Betting audiences could handle stories modern executives wouldn't touch with a focus group and a legal team. Danny DeVito fought 20th Century Fox for weeks to keep the pitch-black ending where Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner die together in wreckage, refusing studio demands for a reconciliation scene. Oliver and Barbara Rose wage a literal territorial war over their mansion after she asks for a divorce, escalating from petty furniture disputes into life-threatening traps. The stars spent 2 weeks suspended from a massive chandelier that malfunctioned mid-take, dropping unexpectedly and leaving them shaken enough that DeVito used their genuine exhaustion to fuel the hatred between their characters. The harnesses caused severe bruising and circulation issues, forcing them to spend grueling hours in the air until they were frequently irritable to the point where the physical toll became the performance. Test audiences found the finale polarizing, with some walking out during the climactic destruction sequence, but the film grossed over $160 million worldwide. Turner's joint pain during production masked a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, so severe doctors told her she might never walk again, and when medication caused facial swelling, industry rumors claimed she had an alcohol problem, ending her reign as a top-tier leading lady just as she reached her professional peak. The MPAA slapped the film with an X rating the moment Miramax acquired it, forcing executives to release it unrated in a gamble that turned controversy into $7.7 million at the box office. A vulgar gangster terrorizes his refined wife at a lavish restaurant until she begins a desperate affair with a quiet bookstore owner, hiding among hanging carcasses until her husband's retaliation prompts a final act of revenge. Helen Mirren endured freezing temperatures, filming nude scenes on cold, damp floors, surrounded by actual animal carcasses that sat under hot studio lights for days, creating a stench so overpowering crew members wore masks. The production team built elaborate sets that required actors to remain still for hours in these brutal conditions to maintain the film's painterly aesthetic. You see the film's visual language shift as characters move between rooms. Designer Jean-Paul Gaultier producing multiple outfit versions to match each space's palette through lightning-fast costume changes. The unrated release played a pivotal role in creating the NC-17 rating, demonstrating there was a commercial market for adults-only artistic content the industry had assumed didn't exist. 10-year-old Brian Modorsky never appeared in another feature film after Parents, retiring before he turned 11 because spending hours submerged in a tank filled with hundreds of gallons of thick red-dyed liquid left his skin stained pink for days. Michael suspects his quintessential 1950s suburban parents are serving human flesh as leftover meat every night, his nightmares of drowning in blood bleeding into waking paranoia. Randy Quaid stayed in character as an imposing ogre-like father throughout production, maintaining such a cold, menacing distance that the child's visible apprehension wasn't acting but genuine fear. The director encouraged this method approach, believing the authentic intimidation would create a more visceral performance on camera. You feel that unease in every frame where Quaid looms over the table, the camera positioning emphasizing his physical bulk in ways that make the suburban setting feel genuinely predatory. The marketing team had no idea how to sell a movie mixing 1950s nostalgia with cannibalism and nightmarish horror, leading to a botched release. The film grossed $870,000 against a $3 million budget, a catastrophic failure that sent Vestron Pictures into bankruptcy by 1990, making Parents a key contributor to the collapse of one of the 80s most prominent independent studios. Paramount canceled The Last Temptation of Christ just weeks before filming, leaving Martin Scorsese so desperate he treated the $4.5 million production of After Hours like a manic survival exercise shot entirely at night. A lonely word processor's attempt to visit a woman in Soho turns into a nightmare when his $20 bill flies out of a taxi window, stranding him in a neighborhood that seems actively conspiring against him. Griffin Dunne was encased in actual heavy plaster for the climax, the material hardening until he experienced genuine claustrophobia that Scorsese encouraged to heighten the frantic energy. The cast and crew worked from sunset to sunrise for weeks, leaving Dunne so sleep-deprived he became naturally jittery. Scorsese used the night shoot exhaustion as a tool, pushing actors past their comfort zones to capture authentic paranoia on camera. Scorsese spent an entire night obsessing over the shot of the bill flying out the window, using fans and invisible wire to achieve the perfect flight path. The film's success at Cannes, where Scorsese won Best Director, rehabilitated his reputation and gave him leverage to finally get his religious epic made. Ray Liotta stayed in quiet, menacing intensity throughout production, staring at Melanie Griffith and Jeff Daniels without breaking character until the physical struggle became so genuine he accidentally injured Daniels. A performance so convincing it got him cast as Henry Hill in Goodfellas. A straight-laced banker gets kidnapped by a free-spirited woman for a playful weekend joyride that shifts into a tense thriller when they encounter her estranged husband at a high school reunion. Liotta was a virtually unknown soap opera actor when director Jonathan Demme took the risk, terrifying Griffith with an intensity that felt genuinely dangerous on set. Griffith insisted on a complete physical overhaul with a short black wig and sharp cynical edge, spending weeks in New Jersey bars to nail the specific accent. The performance paved the way for her Oscar-nominated role in Working Girl, though Melanie noted the dark energy mirrored her own struggles and made the shoot emotionally taxing. Director Demme pioneered the use of found world music and alternative rock as narrative tools, licensing an eclectic mix that ate up a significant portion of the budget. This approach became his signature and influenced directors including Quentin Tarantino. An advertising executive's mental breakdown over a pimple cream campaign takes a grotesque turn when a boil on his shoulder develops a face and begins talking back, embodying his most ruthless instincts. Grant spent 3 hours daily trapped in a rigid harness with the animatronic prosthetic glued to his shoulder, developing persistent neck strain that lasted weeks after filming Wrapped, a physical toll that fueled the unhinged energy visible on screen, where every twitch feels genuinely uncomfortable. Robinson based the film's most repulsive characters on real advertising executives he knew personally, writing dialogue so caustic that several friends recognized themselves and permanently ended their relationships when he refused to tone it down. Grant described the experience as claustrophobic and maddening, often unable to eat or rest while wearing the prosthetic, a physical toll that fueled the unhinged energy you see on screen, where every twitch feels genuinely uncomfortable. The film grossed under $200,000 in its limited US release, bombing so completely that distributors walked away, but the Criterion Collection rescued it from obscurity decades later, recontextualizing what was dismissed as too repulsive into a celebrated cult masterpiece about the advertising industry eating itself alive. Stephen King spent days on set nodding off in a chair while looking like a giant shrub, fighting severe allergic reactions to extensive green foam prosthetics as spirit gum caused intense itching he couldn't relieve, which is about as far from glamorous as a horror author's acting debut can get. 5 macabre stories unfold through a comic book aesthetic, from a murdered patriarch returning for cake to a billionaire finding his penthouse infested with cockroaches during a blackout. Director George Romero insisted on using 250,000 live cockroaches for the final segment, hiring professional entomologists to manage insects that eventually escaped and infested the catering area. The production built a sealed room within a room to contain the insects, but hundreds still found gaps in the set and invaded equipment trucks. You can feel actor E.G. Marshall's genuine discomfort as crew members constantly vacuumed roaches off him between takes. Tom Savini was given $500,000 for special effects covering 5 distinct movies using Rice Krispies and latex for rotting skin textures. The film grossed over $21 million on an $8 million budget, solidifying the Romero-King partnership as the most formidable duo in 80s genre filmmaking. A kindly farmer runs a roadside motel and produces famous smoked meats by trapping highway accident survivors in a hidden garden, burying victims up to their necks with slit vocal cords before harvesting them. The climactic chainsaw duel used real motorized saws with partially dulled chains, and when the actor slipped on blood-slicked floors, the whirring blade came within inches of Calhoun's leg, forcing a production shutdown that should have happened the moment someone approved live chainsaws on a set soaked in corn syrup. Calhoun was a classic Hollywood Western star, terrified the role would destroy his legacy, but the film reinvented him as a cult icon who received more fan mail for wearing a rotting pig's head than for decades of hero roles, proving audiences were ready for former leading men to embrace grotesque territory. You see the shift in Calhoun's physicality as he transforms from kindly innkeeper to predator, the pig mask becoming an extension of his performance rather than just a costume piece. The marketing campaign sparked minor moral panic, with Bible Belt theaters refusing to screen it, controversy that acted as free advertising and helped it gross over $6 million on a $3 million budget, turning scandal into profit, exactly the way low-budget horror figured out worked best. An addictive calorie-free substance marketed as a stuff becomes a global sensation, but the product is actually a sentient parasitic organism that eats victims from the inside out while they spread it to others, like evangelists selling salvation. Cohen built a massive rotating set that spun 360 degrees while hundreds of gallons of yogurt-based mixture were pumped inside. The mechanism jammed upside down and trapped actors and crew in slippery, freezing liquid that went rancid under hot studio lights. The unbearable stench turning production into what Cohen admitted was a war of attrition against the prop. Multiple crew members walked off set permanently after the smell became unbearable. Sorvino played a right-wing militia leader with total commitment, bringing his own concerns about corporate overreach to the role and treating the threat as genuinely dangerous rather than camp. Cohen designed the film as a direct attack on the Food and Drug Administration, featuring a corporate executive who admits they didn't test the product because it tasted too good to be dangerous, which is about the most brutally honest critique of regulatory capture you'll find in 80s horror. The film found massive success on home video, where its anti-corporate message resonated with a generation becoming genuinely skeptical of the products in their pantries. Two unemployed alcoholic actors escaped their squalid Camden flat for a holiday at a cottage owned by eccentric Uncle Monty, a trip that turns disastrous when they're unprepared for rain and hostile locals before Monty arrives with romantic designs on the reserved Marwood, threatening to destroy their already fragile friendship. Robinson forced Grant to get blind drunk before filming, despite Grant being a teetotaler with physical intolerance to alcohol, leaving the actor violently ill but giving him the visceral memory he used to ground every scene. The lighter fluid Grant drinks on screen was actually vinegar that caused his face to contort in genuine agony, a reaction Robinson kept in the final cut. You feel that rawness in every scene, the way Grant's body reacts to each sip, selling the self-destruction as physical reality rather than performance. Robinson revealed Uncle Monty was based on an Italian director who allegedly made unwanted advances during Romeo and Juliet auditions, using the script to exercise that traumatic memory by turning it into dark comedy. The film was produced by Handmade Films, co-founded by George Harrison, who personally intervened to keep Robinson's bleak vision intact when executives wanted a happier ending. What began as a massive risk with no traditional plot structure aged into one of the most quoted and beloved British films of all time, demonstrating that dark comedies didn't need test audiences smoothing every edge to find their audience decades later.